Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and uncover exactly why trying to think your way out of a panic attack often makes things, well, so much worse. I mean, we hear it all the time, right? Just think positive, or change your mindset, or maybe just repeat your affirmations. But if you've ever been in the grip of real visceral panic, you know those cognitive tools just completely fall flat. So today we're going to look at the fascinating biology behind why that happens, and what we should actually be doing instead. We have all been there. You try to repeat positive affirmations during extreme stress, only to feel this deep, crushing sense of personal failure when it simply doesn't work. You might think to yourself, why can't I just calm myself down? Like, what is wrong with my willpower? But as the research clearly shows, this is not a personal failing at all. It is a biological mismatch. To fix it, we really need to completely rethink our approach to emotional regulation. Section 1. The positive thinking myth. So, to understand why positive thinking fails us here, we have to totally debunk that pervasive cultural myth of mind over matter. Because when your amygdala, that little almond-shaped threat detection center in your brain, senses danger, it literally hijacks your entire system. Coined by psychologist Daniel Goleman, an amygdala hijack means this ancient part of your brain activates the fight or flight response, and it doesn't ask for permission. It prioritizes immediate survival over logic, pumping your body full of stress hormones way before you can even consciously finish your live, laugh, love affirmation. Section 2. Anatomy of a hijack. Now, let's look at the underlying biology battling for control here. There is this stark contrast between our modern, rational prefrontal cortex and our ancient survival-driven limbic system. Think of the prefrontal cortex as your thinking cap. It handles logic, reasoning, voluntary choices. This is exactly where your positive affirmations live. But the limbic system and the brainstem, they manage automated reflexes and pure, raw survival. And in a head-to-head battle between the two during a crisis, survival wins. Every single time. Dr. Dan Siegel's famous hand model brilliantly illustrates this power struggle. Imagine when you're calm, your fingers, which represent that prefrontal cortex, rest comfortably over your thumb, which represents the amygdala. You're whole-brained, but when you're triggered by a threat, you literally flip your lid. The thinking cap goes totally offline, leaving the emotional brain completely in charge of the whole shebang. And look, this isn't just a fun metaphor. It's a highly measurable physiological event. When that internal alarm sounds, your brain makes a rapid triage decision. Blood flow and glucose are physically redirected away from the prefrontal cortex and sent straight to survival-oriented regions. Research actually shows this can reduce your working memory performance by up to 50%. I mean, you physically cannot access the planning, reasoning, and affirmative parts of your brain because the energy required to power them has literally been shipped elsewhere. Section 3. The survival override. Once the survival brain takes the wheel, it relies on something called neuroception, a key term from polyvagal theory. Basically, this is your nervous system's subconscious radar. It's constantly scanning the environment for safety or danger. But what's absolutely crucial to understand is that early trauma or even severe modern psychological stress can bias your neuroception. It gets stuck in a persistent state of threat. That means your body reacts as if you're in grave physical danger, even when you're just sitting totally safely on your living room couch. We can think of this in terms of our window of tolerance. When we're inside that nice green zone in the middle, life feels manageable. We can access both reason and emotion, no problem. But when that faulty neuroception detects a threat, it forcefully pushes us out of our calm zone. We don't just feel a little stressed. Our nervous system literally shoves us into extreme, unmanageable states of dysregulation. Depending on the specific threat and your unique biology, your nervous system forces you into one of two extremes. You might shoot straight up into hyperarousal, that's the red zone. This is a sympathetic state, fight or flight, racing thoughts, intense anxiety, just a feeling of being totally wired but stuck. Or on the flip side, you might drop into hypoarousal, the blue zone. This is a dorsal vagal state, freeze or fawn, where you feel completely disconnected, numb, and just exhausted. And in both of these states, your thinking brain is locked out. Section 4. The sequencing power. So here is the huge paradigm shift that explains exactly why your cognitive tools keep failing you. We normally rely on top-down processing, right? We use our sophisticated cortex to steer our day and sort of talk ourselves down from minor frustrations. Classic mind over matter. But severe stress forcefully engages bottom-up processing. The intense physical sensations of survival completely dictate the brain's emotional state. In these intense moments, it's matter over mind. So you can see why repeating an affirmation simply cannot override a nervous system that's actively pumping cortisol and adrenaline for its life. The cognitive tools aren't broken. Actually, scratch that. They're just being applied at the completely wrong time. Trying to use top-down positive thinking during an active bottom-up survival response is literally like calmly turning the steering wheel when the car's engine is engulfed in flames. You have got to put out the fire first. Section 5. Body First Regulation. The scientific reality, which is beautifully backed by polyvagal theory and sensory motor psychotherapy, is that we absolutely must speak the language of the nervous system first. The current sequence is crucial here. We must regulate the physical body using bottom-up techniques before we can even attempt to successfully reframe our thoughts or use any cognitive tools. You basically have to send a biological signal of safety to the brainstem just to get your prefrontal cortex back online. One of the absolute fastest ways to lower your heart rate and shift out of that high-alert, sympathetic red zone is the physiological sigh. It goes like this. You take a deep double inhale through your nose to fully inflate those lungs, followed by a slow, extended exhale out through the mouth. That long exhale, that's the real secret. It directly stimulates the vagus nerve, which acts as the ultimate braking system for your anxiety, rapidly lowering your heart rate in real time. Another incredibly effective bottom-up tool is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. When your amygdala is desperately scanning for invisible internal threats, grounding actively forces your brain's resources back into the present physical reality. By systematically identifying things you can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste, you're competing with that anxiety loop for cognitive bandwidth. You're basically drogging your nervous system back into the safety of the present moment. Finally, there's orienting. When we panic, our vision often narrows in. But by intentionally and slowly turning your head from side to side and noticing objects close up and far away, you actually mimic the behavior of a calm nervous system. When you look around and acknowledge that, hey, there is no literal tiger in my living room, your nervous system receives this powerful implicit message that it is safe to finally lower its defenses. Remember, true resilience isn't about white-knuckling your way through a panic attack or forcing yourself to smile when your body genuinely thinks it's dying. As the Polyvagal framework points out, resilience is about having the adaptive flexibility to shift your physiological state. It's about knowing exactly how to transition gracefully out of defense and back into connection. The absolute ultimate takeaway you should remember from this explainer is this. If you have ever failed to positive think your way out of intense anxiety, you are not weak and your mind is not broken. You are just using the right tools in the wrong sequence. You are trying to use a top-down strategy on a deeply bottom-up problem. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to carry with you. The very next time those internal alarm bells start ringing and your heart starts racing, are you going to try to reason with the fire, or will you use your body to finally put it out? Regulate the body first, and I promise you, the mind will follow.